Hey everyone, Rho here. Today we kick off our latest week special with a week dedicated to Abaddon the Despoiler. The man, the myth, the legend. And we're going to begin today by discussing the age-long rumours of him being a clone of Horus Lupercal. General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we'll be discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe. So you have been warned. And with that said, let's just jump straight in. So Ezekiel Abaddon, or Ezekiel as I used to call him before the days of audiobooks, the one-time first captain of the Lunar Wolves, the most renowned of all the Emperor's legions during the Great Crusade, and now the unopposed Warmaster of Chaos. For all of Abaddon's current day infamy, whether you love him or you hate him, you have to admit the dude has earned every bit of his reputation. During the Crusade, Abaddon's name was famous, not just throughout his legion, but the Legiones Astartes entire. In any legionary debate, his name was front and centre. And when for decades it seemed he'd been failing in one crusade after another, it turns out the man's been playing 3D chess the entire time, while we've all been stuck playing checkers. Abaddon has played the long game, and he has played it masterfully. The galaxy buckles due to his actions, and his actions alone. When you stand back and take in the full scope of his success, is it any wonder his name is whispered as a clone of the Primarch Horus himself? From the early days of 40k, the era of 2nd edition, the rumour was there. Within the Chaos Codex, before the days they even had separate factions, we were given this tease in regards to Abaddon. Long ago, Abaddon was a great hero, a mighty warrior who battled in humanity's wars of expansion and retribution. He was captain of the Lunar Wolves' first company during the Great Crusade, and followed Horus from ancient terror to conquer the distant stars. The Lunar Wolves battled across uncounted worlds to free them from alien tyranny or the taint of chaos, and Abaddon was ever at the fore. He worshipped the Warmaster like a god, and Horus treated him as his most favoured son. Indeed, some whispered that he was in truth the clone son of the Primarch himself, product of the earliest primogenitor experimentation. So even from the very beginning, the mystery into Abaddon's identity was there, that perhaps in some way he was a reborn Horus. And this remained as the editions continued, still mentioned in codexes today. As the years passed, we were obviously blessed to enter into the Heresy series, where we saw the background of the legions truly evolve. With our own eyes, we read of the legendary Primarchs, seeing them speak and live in the Age of Myth, the Golden Age, and the time it all went so terribly wrong. In seeing the Lunar Wolves, the sons of Horus, we learnt the Legion generally bear a particularly strong likeness to their Primarch. However, it was Horus Aximand who bore the stronger likeness to Lupercal himself, being christened Little Horus by his brothers. But it was undoubted Abaddon was the one who exemplified the Primarch's nature greatest, and we saw how strong and true their bond was. Even in the later novels, entering into the Siege of Terror, there's some particularly interesting dives into Abaddon's past, revealing his life on Cathonia prior to the Legion. However, the clone legacy lives on, and perhaps the best references or insights into it come from Aaron Dembski-Bowden's Black Legion series. Within the first installment, Talon of Horus, we saw an Abaddon in the years after the heresy, in the aftermath, or perhaps more appropriately, the midst of the Traitor War. And here we saw him head to prevent Fabius Bile from cloning the body of his former Primarch, which all ultimately ended up with him coming face to face with a reborn Horus. Now, the fact that Abaddon kills or destroys this clone has been famous for many years. However, we did get some very enticing suggestions in regards to the Abaddon clone theory as well, as Abaddon's men are desperately trying to fight off this Horus, who is just absolutely laying waste to all of them. Abaddon cuts off the entire battle with a single word: enough. And we got the comparison between the two, Primarch and Favoured Son, from Kion's perspective, one of Abaddon's most trusted brothers of the future Black Legion. In his armour, Abaddon was the equal of his father's clone, both in stature and in the fury he emanated. The Warmaster's name is whispered as a curse on 1,000,000 worlds in this last dark millennium, with Imperial peasants, those who are aware of the events that shaped our empire, believing Abaddon to be Horus's cloned son. It would not surprise those superstitious souls to learn that in that moment, as they both stood before me, only their wounds and their armament set them apart. In all else, they were twins. Now, first of all, this scene is very reminiscent of Horus's own entrance within the Wolfsbane novel. There, Horus entered a battle between his legion and the invading Space Wolves, and silences the entire battlefield, his legion and the wolves alike, with a single word: cease. And here, Abaddon does the exact same: enough. Now, this is more likely coincidence and a dramatic entrance for Abaddon, but you can't help but see the symmetry, particularly in regards to the Abaddon clone conversation we're having today. And with that in mind, of course, that mention of the clone rumours. As they stood before me, only the wounds and their armament set them apart. In all else, they were twins. The moment you read that, your mind fires with curiosity. To take it on the face of it, of course it sounds like outright confirmation. And the thing that appears to get my attention even more is the passage earlier, stating Abaddon in his armour is a match for Horus in stature and fury. The whole thing entices you emotionally towards it. Now, we know Abaddon was particularly large for an Astartes, in bulk and height, but even in his Terminator armour, I find it hard to believe he'd be anywhere near Primarch size. So this was tantalising the first time I read it. It could simply be a bit of dramatic flair, as let's not forget this is all from the viewpoint of Kion. This is what he is witnessing. And if anything, the one thing you learn from reading and enjoying the Black Legion series is, in my opinion, Kion has a nigh-on worship of Abaddon himself. But we'll get back to that later. The stature could more simply be a reference to stature in terms of his reputation, his aura. That Abaddon in his Terminator armour is just as visibly imposing. It's also worth remembering that this isn't the true Horus Lupercal. It's a clone, created by Fabius Bile. Perhaps it's just not quite the same as the real thing. There's a reference to the clone of Horus being younger in appearance than they remember. So who's to say it may not be slightly smaller as well? You combine that with Abaddon being larger than standard, and in Terminator armor, who's to say they aren't standing the same height? As always with the lore, it's down to how you want to interpret it. There are no right or wrong answers. Now for me, I really feel the key to it is that perception of Kion, that it's all from his viewpoint, that he sees Abaddon as the equal to Horus. And I think the real unveiling of this truth came about in the follow-up to Talon of Horus, in the novel The Black Legion. In there we got to witness the famous duel between Sigismund and Abaddon, the fate of the first High Marshal of the Black Templars. And though Sigismund would eventually fall to the returned Abaddon, age having greatly slowed him down, he would still inflict a grave wound on his foe, forcing Abaddon to recuperate for some time. And it was during this recuperation we once more saw the Abaddon clone rumours addressed, as Kion came to speak with him in private. And we got a particularly interesting revelation on how Kion views him. He had always been huge for one of our kind, and had always possessed his Primarch's features in the way many of the former sons of Horus tended to do. It was common knowledge, even during the Great Crusade, that no Space Marine took after their Primarch as obviously as Ezekiel or Abaddon took after the Warmaster. But seeing him stripped of battleplate and pretension alike, the similarity between the dead father and living son was nothing short of revelatory. I finally gave voice to a question many had considered, yet none had dared to ask. Are you Horus? Now Abaddon found Kion's question particularly amusing, replying that he is Ezekiel Abaddon. However, Kion again pressed the question. Are you Horus? Are you his clone? His son? He laughed, the sound wet and tinny over the speakers. What do you believe, Kion? Do you think I am? I saw no reason to lie. Yes. So it's clear from this interaction, Kion absolutely believes this to be the case. This could be all the confirmation you need. A first-hand viewpoint of Abaddon, coming to the conclusion he must be a clone of his Primarch. Or you could see this as evidence of how biased Kion's viewpoint is. In him being convinced Abaddon is a clone of Horus, that is what he wants to see. His respect, his admiration of Abaddon, is why from Kion's perspective, you see Abaddon and Horus standing akin to twins. The same height, the same stature. Because that is how Kion views them. Something we know is not likely, in the literal sense, an Astarte standing eye to eye with their Primarch, but it then becomes a reality. And hey, who's to say Kion is wrong? He's been there by Abaddon's side, witnessed him achieve things Horus never could, all the while refusing to bow to the gods of chaos, refusing to be used as one of their pawns. Abaddon has absolutely replaced the former Warmaster, and Abaddon is absolutely worth that level of reverence. The truth of the answer, as always, is up to you. You can view Kion's views as first-hand evidence that Abaddon must be the clone of Horus. Conversely, you can read Abaddon's past in the Siege of Terror and view that as a sign it's unlikely. For me, Abaddon is not literally the clone of Horus. He looks like him, but so do many of the former sons of Horus. Some, as we have seen, even more so than him. His extra size, nature, and ability make any comparisons become just that little bit more likely, a little bit more tangible. The fact that it's even debated is a testament to the success of Abaddon, the achievements he's made, even dating back to his days as the first captain of the Legion. He made his mark. He earned that reputation. If he hadn't done any of that, there would be no rumours. It is Abaddon's success, his incredible success, that has made it a reality. For someone such as Kion, who has viewed Abaddon achieving wonders, he may as well be a clone of Horus. He may as well be Horus reborn. For the people of the Imperium, who have witnessed this son of Horus take up the Warmaster mantle, have witnessed the continued destruction of the Imperium for 10,000 years, why wouldn't he be a reborn Horus? Who even was Horus but the embodiment of evil? A son who turned traitor, who turned his back on the Emperor. Abaddon may not be the clone of Horus, but in many ways, he is. But as always everyone, what do you think? Do you feel that Abaddon is the true clone of Horus? That some way, somehow, he is the reborn Primarch? If that's so, how do you feel it came about? And what evidence do you view as the real one that proves it? Is it the fact the rumours have been around throughout the history of 40k? Or do you value more the input of Kion? Or perhaps are you like me, and you do not view it as so? That those viewpoints of Kion are more a biased view? That it reflects more how he views Abaddon? The reverence in which he holds him, despite their brotherhood? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. With that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.